This message is a divine spotlight shining directly upon your life, the chosen one. Please understand with absolute clarity that your presence here in this moment is no accident of the internet or a twist of fate. You were intentionally summoned by the divine strategy of heaven itself. Something you did, a seemingly small act or decision made in the quiet routine of your morning, resonated powerfully beyond the earthly sphere, touching the very heart of God. That moment caused a celestial pause, and you brought a genuine smile back to his face. Heaven operates on a completely different value system than humanity. We, as people, tend to focus our attention on the loud, the public, and the spectacular. We applaud grand achievements and dramatic, visible victories. However, the Lord, in his infinite wisdom, zeroes in on the most subtle, quiet things. He notices the unseen choices made in solitude, the prayers whispered when no one is listening, and the steadfast obedience that receives no earthly recognition or applause. It was in the midst of your ordinary morning, as you simply moved and lived according to the purpose he placed within you, that you performed the act which stirred the affection of your Father. The action that moved God could have been something as simple as a forgotten prayer, a kind word spoken when you felt weary, a momentary gesture of selflessness, or a deliberate choice you believed held no significance. That single decision, which you probably dismissed as inconsequential, actually commanded the full attention of heaven, sparking uncontainable joy. This is crucial for you to grasp. God didn't merely observe the act. He genuinely smiled because of you. Not because you perfectly executed a task, not because you managed to impress him with flawless behavior, but because, in a moment when your heart could have turned anywhere, it leaned toward him. You consciously chose light over succumbing to shadows. You embraced faith instead of letting fear paralyze you. You expressed gratitude rather than dwelling in complaint. And you chose surrender instead of demanding your own way. This seemingly small internal shift was not insignificant. It generated a powerful ripple in the spiritual realm. That ripple caused heaven to respond with absolute, overflowing delight. It's imperative that you fully comprehend the spiritual implications of this. When God's smile falls upon a person, a cascade of divine favor is released into their life. Furthermore, when the Lord smiles over you, the spiritual armor of protection around you strengthens tenfold, and doors that were previously sealed begin to swing open effortlessly, without any need for struggle or force on your part. Before we continue to delve deeper into this profound truth, if your spirit bears witness and confirms the validity of this word in your soul, take immediate action to affirm it. I encourage you to like this message now as a tangible sign of your agreement and acceptance of this revelation into your life. Please also make the commitment to subscribe, ensuring that you will not miss the next prophetic and timely release that heaven intends to send specifically for you. It's a way of spiritually positioning yourself to receive. Take a moment to drop the name of your city and nation into the comments below, allowing us to see and celebrate where the remnant of faithful believers is actively rising and gathering across the globe. We are witnessing a monumental spiritual awakening in real time, and to all those who actively support the mission of this ministry, whether through the dedicated link pinned in the comments or by utilizing the Super Thanks feature, please recognize your role. You are not just passive donors or givers. You are vital co-laborers and active partners in this magnificent, heaven-ordained assignment. May every seed you sow rise up before the throne like sweet, smelling incense, powerfully speaking on your behalf and opening floodgates of blessing and doors that no force of the enemy can ever manage to shut again. Now, I urge you, stay with me. Do not allow yourself to scroll away or get distracted. In the moments immediately ahead, we are going to explore with greater depth the essential reasons why God smiled upon you this morning, and what this monumental event signifies for the tangible blessings and divine alignment that are now actively converging around your entire life. This is where the revelation becomes personal and practical for your walk. Chosen one, you must integrate this truth at the very core of your being. From the instant you awaken each morning, heaven is instantly attentive to your every movement. Your simple act of breathing is registered. Your presence on this earth is actively acknowledged and catalogued. Your very existence is a cause for celebration in the celestial realm. The fact that you woke up today signifies that God is still in the process of writing your remarkable story, and it is far from complete. Your awakening confirms that your original purpose is still fully active and alive, and your unique assignment on this earth remains unfinished. The simple, physical opening of your eyes this morning is powerful spiritual evidence that heaven has a wealth of things yet to accomplish through your life, more to unveil to your understanding, and more of His purpose yet to birth out of you. Absolutely nothing about your waking moments is ordinary or common. On the contrary, your waking is a powerful, divine signal that your life continues to carry immense spiritual weight and influence in the unseen realm. Consider the profound words of Psalm 3:5, which declares, "I lay down and slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me." Your waking was not a random occurrence of biology. It was intentionally orchestrated. It was a purposeful, deliberate act of God's sustaining grace upon you. God actively upheld and preserved you throughout the night, steering you safely through unseen battles, spiritual storms that raged while you rested, intense emotional pressures, and the oppressive heaviness that tirelessly attempted to suffocate your very hope. If you opened your eyes this morning, it is proof that God's hand was actively preserving your life. His protective, all-encompassing hand was undeniably upon you, even during the period when your consciousness was suspended in sleep. Therefore, when heaven observes you opening your eyes once more, it sees a person whom God has deliberately chosen to continue shaping, strengthening, and strategically positioning for an upcoming divine assignment. Heaven smiled because you successfully survived every force and pressure that attempted to break your spirit yesterday. You successfully overcame the forces that tried to numb your spiritual senses. You triumphantly survived everything that attempted to sever your connection to your God-given destiny. There were forces operating that you didn't even perceive, pressures you couldn't fully comprehend, and emotional burdens you could not articulate that tirelessly sought to pull you permanently out of divine alignment. Yet, when the light of morning broke, you were still here, still breathing the breath of life, and still firmly chosen. Heaven celebrates this miraculous survival because it has full knowledge of the countless unseen battles you fought and won. It knows exactly how many things relentlessly attempted to silence your spirit, but were utterly defeated. Your continued survival is, in and of itself, a potent supernatural victory that cannot be ignored. Despite the often silent battles you contend with, the fatigue that sometimes settles in your heart, and the many unanswered questions you carry, you showed up again. Showing up consistently is not a sign of weakness. It is a profound act of worship. Showing up is not a simple coincidence. It is a powerful display of genuine spiritual courage. Showing up is far from a small thing. It is a declaration of spiritual warfare. You rose from your rest today, even though the enemy had desperately hoped you would not. You stood firm today, even though a heavy spirit tried to anchor you down in despair. You opened your eyes, and by that simple act, you gifted God another profound opportunity to move through you, to speak directly to your heart, and to fortify your inner man. Heaven never, under any circumstance, overlooks this caliber of spiritual resilience, and that alone is what moved the heart of God to smile. It was not your perfection, your public performance, or your absolute certainty. It was purely your unwavering willingness to show up and try one more time. When God sees you rise again, he sees an unbreakable hope that refused to be extinguished. He sees a fragile faith fighting fiercely to breathe. He sees your divine purpose still pulsing robustly beneath the veil of your physical fatigue. Heaven smiles not because you are without flaw, but because you are present and accounted for. Not because you possess every answer, but because you have resolutely refused to give up on the process. Every single morning that you wake is a clear spiritual announcement to the cosmos that God's work in you is not yet concluded. Heaven is actively rejoicing, knowing that your incredible story is still gracefully unfolding according to divine, meticulous intention. Heaven does not reserve its celebration only for the grand, public victories. Heaven celebrates the quiet, consistent effort. Heaven celebrates undeniable resilience. Heaven celebrates those critical moments when you courageously keep moving forward, even when your soul is quietly whispering that it is completely exhausted. The spiritual realm fully recognizes the sheer weight you carry, the significant pressure you are actively pushing against, and the immense courage it requires to simply remain standing when everything within your physical and emotional being longs to collapse entirely. Some people mistakenly believe that the act of worship is exclusively limited to singing songs or lifting one's hands in a church service. However, the chosen ones know the deeper truth. Worship is also powerfully expressed in the way you deliberately continue to move forward and persist when the battle you are facing feels interminable. Worship is the deliberate choice to cling to God even in your moments of deepest weakness. Worship is the act of staying fully engaged in the fight when the option of quitting appears to be the easiest and most immediately appealing path. Heaven recognizes this quiet, tenacious commitment as true devotion. Worship is undeniably the refusal to throw in the towel. Every single time you get back up after a fall, your very life transforms into a living, breathing psalm before God. Your actions are actively writing new verses of testimony, even in the moments when your mouth is unable to form words. Every time you consciously wipe away your tears and make the attempt to try again, your spirit rises before God as a powerful song. It is a melody composed of perseverance, a timeless hymn of courage, and a persistent chorus of faith that only the spiritual ears of heaven can fully perceive and hear. This explains why Proverbs 24:16 so powerfully states, "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again." God never once expected you to walk through life flawlessly or without error. He simply expected you to rise up faithfully every single time you fell. Your consistent rising is worship. Your spiritual resilience is worship. Your unwavering persistence is worship. God does not wait for you to attain some form of perfection before He chooses to celebrate you. He celebrates your rising. He celebrates the pivotal moment you make the decision not to remain defeated. He celebrates the way you unequivocally refuse to allow the surrounding darkness to speak the final word over your life and circumstances. You may not yet be aware of this, but in the unseen realm, every single deliberate attempt you make to obey God transmits powerful shock waves throughout the entire spiritual atmosphere. Hell instantly recognizes your persistent effort as a significant danger to its plans. Heaven recognizes it as the highest form of praise. Your act of trying is not small or insignificant. It is purely supernatural. Your categorical refusal to quit carries a spiritual fragrance of worship that is vastly more powerful than any mere song sung without a concurrent personal struggle. That is the fundamental reason why heaven smiled over you again this morning. Your relentless persistency has become your most potent form of praise. God looked upon your life and saw profound devotion expressed through sheer endurance. He saw a heart that adamantly refuses to surrender its ultimate purpose. He saw a spirit that perpetually continues to reach upward, even while being heavily weighed down. He saw worship in your waking up, worship in your trying, worship in your rising, and worship in your deep resilience. Heaven smiles simply because you did not quit, and that in itself is the precise type of worship that most powerfully moves the heart of the Almighty God.